Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to today's webinar on how to configure out assignment of records in BMC Helix Remedyforce. I'm gonna give a couple of minutes to see how many people are gonna join. So thanks for joining and I appreciate your patience. Just as a friendly reminder, we recommend you to modify the quality of the video to 720p so you can able to see everything clearly. You can modify that on your browser and YouTube options and modify it to 720p. Also, if you want to follow us on the next procedure, we recommend you to open your own Remedyforce on a sandbox, just in case you want to do the same configurations that we're going to do. So we'll start in a couple of minutes. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, so let's begin with today's webinar. Today is also with us Diego from the Remedyforce support team, and he's going to be with you guys on the chat. So any questions you want to drop during the video, you can drop to Diego on the chat. So feel free to ask. The process we're going to follow today is the Remedyforce out assignment of records. So let's start with this. So what is the out assignment in Remedyforce, or how it's meant to be used? It's based on queue and user assignment. So first of all, the records arrive to a queue or to a user. So they're going to be assigned to a queue or user. So when a record is created, we're going to assign a record to a queue. And then based on the staff business hours, we're going to assign a user. This only applies for incidents and service requests. So we're going to see the whole procedure, how to configure that, how to configure the assignment of queues based on criteria, and how to configure a round robin for assignment inside that queue. So let's jump into the Remedyforce. And first of all, what we need to configure, or we got to make sure, is that we have business hours already configured for our organization. So let's go to the setup menu. And let's head to the quick find and type business hours. Here, as you can see, I have a 24/7 business hours, which is active, and this is my current default. I have a 9 to 5 based on Central US, but also I'm gonna create a new one. And this is gonna be 9 to 5 IST. Make it active, and let's go and select the time zone correctly. All right, so then I'm just going to select, this is going to be Monday to Friday. So I'm going to unblock this checkbox. And I'm going to block Monday to Friday here. And this is going to be 9 to 5. In case you already have your business hours correctly, you can skip this step, but this is critical for the rest of the steps you're going to see later. And there you go. We have another business hours there. So, okay, let's go now to Remedyforce administration, and we're going to configure how the assignment of records to queues works first, because we need to assign a record first to a queue. And we have a couple of ways to do this based on criteria or make a default queue. So this is going to be only for incidents and service requests. So let's go to Remedyforce administration. And first, we're going to head to configure self-service and incidents. And this is the basic initial auto assignment to a queue. So all the incidents are being created from the self-service are going to be dropped on the incident queue. This is my current configuration, but you can modify this on your Remedyforce. So in order to modify, just click on the drop-down, select a different queue, click on Save in here, and that's it. We do have another options here to pretty much modify the basic configuration for the self-service, but we're not going to touch anything on this. So we just want to all the incidents created on the self-service to drop on the incident queue. This doesn't apply to service requests, only applies for incidents. And just to make sure we're talking about the same incident, on your self-service, you're going to see this submit a ticket form. And this, all the incidents created from here are going to drop on the incident queue. So that is a basic assignment to a queue from the self-service to an incident. Okay, let's continue, and we're going to head up now to the configure application and suggested owners and queue out assignment. Here, we're going to create rules to assign to a different queue based on criteria. Okay, so at the moment, I don't have any rule. So we're going to click on the plus sign. And we got to choose a title. In this case, I'm going to going to choose hardware, auto assignment. Sorry about that. There you go. And from here, you can select the criteria. Um, in this case, I'm going to use a simple criteria, but you have all these fields available to you. So I'm going to choose category equals. Then I'm going to look for hardware. Then let's go and choose the operator. If you want to add more than one criteria, you got to select if it's an and, on, or. And in this case, I'm going to select none because it's going to be my only criteria. So all my incidents created on the hardware category, they're going to be assigned to a different queue. So I'm going to click on the plus sign, and this will create this basic rule in here. And after that, we're going to select the queue, and I'm going to send it to infrastructure management. After that, you got the option as well of choosing the suggested owners and and suggested queues as well. What is this? Is we're gonna see in a bit on the Remedyforce console. There is an option to see what are the suggested owners for this kind of incidents that were created on the hardware category. So example, I'm gonna select if you have like an SME or a specialist, someone that always handle this kind of situations. There, you gotta choose it in here, or you gotta choose the queue. In this case, I'm gonna choose same queue here, and I'm gonna take three staff people to make this job. So this doesn't mean that uh, it's going to be assigned automatically to any of these people. So that is only a suggestion that a staff can see on the Remedyforce console, and we're going to see in a bit, but we're going to configure it right now. So after that, we're going to click on the Save button, and our rule, it's already configured. Okay, so we're gonna make a quick test. I'm gonna open my Remedyforce console, and oops, I just was forgetting something. We need to turn on the job who assigns the records to the queues. So we gotta go to Home, and we got into the record assignment under Application Settings. And if you see, there's one job in here that says automatically assign staff to queue records based on settings defined in staff out assignment and suggested owner and queue out assignment. We just drop off from the suggested owners and queue out assignment. Uh, so we're going to start the job right now by clicking on start button and clicking on save. So now let's just wait a couple of minutes for the process to start. Now we're going to select the category hardware. We're going to submit a new ticket. Let me reopen this. Sure, this is okay. Okay, let me check that question on the chat. Hold on for a sec. It's Peter Reisel. Is there a concept of using contains in criteria? We sometimes in common email becoming since a description contains a particular header information. Peter, I think at the moment, let me quick verify it. I think there's no option, no operator like a contains right now. Let me double verify. Just oh yeah, it seems there's one for only for text fields, like text box and stuff. There is a like and not like. Uh, we can test that right now and see if that works correctly. So I added, as you can see here, description, like, test. And just for this testing, I'm gonna remove the previous one. Let's update the rule. And go back to, let me refresh this page. Okay, so we're testing the like feature, and we're gonna see this incident being dropped on the incident queue. Here we go. So it's gonna take a couple of probably 1 to 2 minutes to run the job, and if the like that we just configure it's working correctly or it's able to detect the test on the description field, we expect that this incident goes to infrastructure management. So this number 68 is our test, so we're going to refresh in a couple of minutes the queue and see if it went to infrastructure management. Okay, it seems it went away, so we're going to check infrastructure management queue. And there you go. It's the only incident I got in here. So yes, answer is yes, Peter. You might be able to use a like operator for text boxes like this one. So I just make it a test with description field, and it was working correctly, as you can see. So initially, it went to our first level of assignment, which I'm going to remind you is this one on configure self-service incidents. So it went first to here to our incident queue. Think about this queue like a triage queue where all your incidents are going to drop first. And if there's any rule configured to out-assign those to a different queue, then they're going to be assigned to whatever you have configured on your out-assignment of queues. Like the example we just did, it went from the incident queue to the infrastructure management queue. So what is the suggested owners that we configured right below here? So we got to open the same incident. And on your agent tools on the console, a staff might be able to see which are the SMEs or the subject matter experts for this kind of incidents. By clicking on suggested owners, you should be able to see your selections from the Remedyforce administration. Example here, I have 3 people who are experts on this kind of incidents, but also I can see the queue where it's supposed to be assigned, right? So if for some reason a incident goes misrouted or it goes to a different queue, and a staff exactly doesn't know which queue it's the queue where it belongs, or the people who is the expert for this kind of issues, you can configure the suggested owner so people can see later, okay, I gotta contact Jair or Jim or Paul to assign this to the best staff possible, right? So if we scroll down, we can see that queue, it's already populated, but there's no staff, right? So first we got to make sure that we have people under this queue, and then we're going to configure the auto assignment for the staff. So the ticket's going to be assigning based on round robin algorithm, and after that they're going to be assigning after business hours. So based on the business hours, it gets a list like, okay, these three people are available on this time zone or in this time window. So I'm gonna assign it first to the staff number A, staff B, staff C, depending on the round robin algorithm. Uh, okay, we're gonna check this queue. So let's go to the setup menu, open in a new tab. And on the quick find, we're gonna type queue. And under manage users, we just click on queues. And we're gonna look for that particular queue. Okay, so currently we don't have any members. So we're gonna add a couple of members. We click on edit, and from here I'm gonna add Jackson Smith, Emma Brown, and I'm gonna add Jim and Jair. And okay, we click on save. So we just make sure everything is in place, and we click on save. All right, so we already have our users on our queue, but we gotta make sure that those users have already configured a business hours, right? So we're gonna go to Remedyforce administration and manage users, clients, and I'm gonna open the same users I just added to the queue. And make sure you have this field available, business hours. For those who the field is not available, we gotta add the field from the setup menu. We type users. We scroll down to under customize users and field sets. We'll look for a field set called main panel. We click on edit, and we make sure business hours is there. If you don't see business hours in here, you just gotta search for it then. You drag and drop into the field set, click on save, and refresh your Remedyforce administration to see the business hours. If it's still missing, just make sure your profile is able to see this field set from application settings, form assignment, and if you see form to assign client, your services administrator or your administrator profile, if you're using a custom profile, it's got to be on this box. Otherwise, you won't be able to see the field set correctly. So just add that your own profile to this form, click on save, and you should be able to see business hours. Okay. So we go back to our clients. We make sure business hours is available to us. And if we see this particular client has a default business hours, but I'm going to select her own business hours because I know she works from 9 to 5 on Central. And I'm gonna do it the same, but I'm gonna do 9 to 5 IST for Jackson. And just to play a little bit with this, we're gonna select 24/7 for the other two. Okay, so we have our 4 staff members with business hours configured. We already have one rule in place that it's looking for the test value on the description field. And it's supposed to go to infrastructure management. So what we're expecting to do is we're gonna submit 3 tickets from the self-service. Those tickets are going to arrive to the incident queue on the Remedyforce console. And then the rule to assign a queue, it's gonna start working and then it's gonna be assigned to infrastructure management. After that, our job to assign based on business hours is gonna start working as well, and it's going to assign a staff based on the business hours. Since we have 4, but only 3 of them apply because this is on a different time zone, then only 3 staff members are going to be eligible to assign. Okay. So there's only one step left, and we gotta go to the Home tab once again on the Remedyforce administration, and we gotta go to Application Settings and Record Assignment. Once you get there, you're gonna see a button called Configure Staff Auto Assignment. And from here, we're gonna see a list of our queues. So this controls the staffs that are eligible to assign a record once it reaches to a queue. In this case, if I select infrastructure management, I'm going to see now my 3 members. And I'm just going to enable auto assignment based on business hours. I'm going to select all staff members and click on Save. We just make sure the job's still running here and click on Save once again. And I'm going to submit a couple of tickets with the same so it's 69 and it's 70. And 71. We go back to Remedyforce console and we go to our incident queue. And we already see 69 on infrastructure management. So that means one of three already got moved to the other queue. And okay, it seems all of them are already on. And let me edit this so we can see clearly. We have 69, 70, and 71 assigned to the queue, but also assigned to a staff member. All right, so as you can see, the auto assignment of records to queues and users is working correctly. And this is only for incidents, but it's exactly the same procedure for service requests. What is the only difference is that for service requests, we have a record called request definition, right? So everything it's more predefined on the request definition. Example, for a this request definition, if I go to this request definition template, the configure application templates, the assignment of records to queues here, it's simpler than creating the rule. We just should be able to create the rule as well. I mean, that is totally possible. Example, on this one, I already have one queue assigned for all requests that comes from this request definition. If I look for that under self-service, let's go and submit one. Okay, so 72 has been submitted to, it's a service request and it's ask benefits HR question. And if we check the template, I already have configured the owner ID, which is the queue. So there's no need to create a rule for this. But if you want to create rules for service requests, it's totally possible based on the same criteria that we have defined. This case, we expect that this is going to arrive to uh, payroll queue. So we just gotta verify that. 72, it's already here. So what I recommend you in case of service request, it's assign directly the queue from the service request template. Example, if this is your request definition, this template, incident template, is your service request template. So assign the queue directly in here, and automatically it's going to be assigned to that payroll queue. If you want to automate the assignment for staff, then you just need to assign or enable the auto assignment for that particular queue. And we go to home. Once again, record assignment, staff auto assignment, and we gotta look for that payroll queue. We're gonna enable auto assignment based on business hours assigned to these two guys. and that's it. So next time I submit the same. Go back to the Remedyforce console and refresh it. Okay, so the previous one got assigned already. It takes like 2 minutes. It runs like every 2 minutes the job to assign. So it might be that from some incidents it's going to be faster. For other ones, it's going to be slower. But in this case, our previous service request for Ask Benefits HR, it's already assigned to one of our staffs. And as you can see, since we don't have configured any suggested owners or queue or suggested queues for this, if I go to suggested owners on the agent tools, I don't see any records because I didn't configure this for this particular queue. But you can go back from the self-service and configure by yourself. All right, so this is a really helpful tool because it allows you to automatically enroll tickets based on criteria. It would allow you to reduce the number of steps your staff need to do while routing tickets, and it's going to reduce some time on your SLAs. Uh, this is all right now to configure the auto assignment of records. Please let me know if you have any other question on the chat, or if you have any problem with the record assignment, you can submit a case with Remedyforce support by our support channels, which are Support Central, or by going into the chat on the in-product chat, which can be found on the Remedyforce administration. Or you can just drop an email to customer_support@bmc.com. All right, I think that we have a question from Peter as well. Let me see. If you configure field history tracking of queue, will the default queue always appear even if you configure to route to another queue? Yes, I believe so. If you have configured history tracking for a queue, I don't know if I already have configured that. Let me check. But it's gonna show that if we create an incident and goes to the incident queue first, and then goes to a different queue out assigned by the record assignment tool, then the history tracking should look like incident queue, and then it got moved to a different queue, and then it got assigned to a staff. But let's take a look. No, unfortunately, I don't think I have configured history tracking for the queue. But I am like 99% sure that it's gonna show us in here like it was assigned to incident queue, and then it got assigned to infrastructure queue. But you know what, Peter? Let me take that back. I'm gonna do a second test after I finish this webinar, and I will drop you an email with the answer for that once I have assigned history tracking. Because if I assign it right now, let me see if I can assign right now. Anytime. Okay. Any other questions? And just if you have any concern about all those fields during the whole process, there is a help link on all our administration panels that will take you directly to the documentation for a specific section on Remedyforce. Example, I just click on configure record assignment help, and this took me to the documentation for this particular section. So I don't have to be searching on the documentation for a specific topic. That link will take you directly to that documentation. So that it's, I recommend you to do that when you have questions about what is this field for, or how do I configure X or Y. So take yourself to documentation. If you still have a problem, you can reach us anytime, and that is not a big deal. We are here to help you. But documentation always have pretty much detailed info about every single field on the administration panel and on the rest of the product. And once you're here, you can search on different other topics. All right, is there any other question, or are we fine to end the webinar right now? Just let us know in the chat if you have any other question. Okay, we do have another question. If a staff member is on vacation or on temporary leave, is there a way to enter that data in a calendar or availability to drop them from the out assignment rotation? I'm gonna be honest. I think there is no option right now to upload just our calendar availability. That sounds like an amazing idea because it's gonna save you a ton of time just to upload the calendar for availability. I will encourage you to submit that as an idea on the communities. On, let me take you there. It's communities. And while you're submitting the idea, we gotta make sure that this is being tracked on the product, and we can have it later as a feature. As far as I know, at the moment, the only way to take out the rotation is by going to record assignment and configure the assignment. I do believe there is one field that means on vacation or inactive by inactivating the user, but that is totally manually at the moment. as well. To take out someone of the queue, gotta just uncheck this, click on save, and that will take you out. But I do agree that is a really there is a really good idea to have a calendar for availability on staff members. Unfortunately, at the moment, I think it is not possible. I will take that feedback to our product managers and see if we can deliver that on a future next release. This is the website where you can submit your idea. You already have a login for this, so you should be able to log in here and log an idea for the Remedyforce product. The ideas will be evaluated, and if it reach certain number of votes, they will be delivered or analyzed first by your product managers. After they got approved, they will be on the roadmap for the Remedyforce product. So I recommend you log in an idea, and we will vote for it. All right. If there's no additional questions on this, we really appreciate your assistance today. Let us know either by a comment down in here if there's any other question. We will always check comments on our videos. We recommend you as well to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we have a ton of videos on support topics, either configuration topics or a system for known issues. Also, make sure you stay tuned to the newsletter to hear about the next webinar, and let us know any feedback about the webinar. Let us know feedback about the topics you want to see in this series. And thank you so much for joining with us.